Hello everyone, welcome to this session on AWS IAM tutorial. Today in this session, we will be going through what the AWS IAM service is and how you can go ahead and make use of this service in your day-to-day work of AWS. Now guys, IAM is probably one of the most important services of AWS because it has basically using this service, you can give access to one AWS account to multiple users. So let's go ahead and start with the agenda to understand what all different aspects of the IAM service we are going to cover today. But before we move on, guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Intellipaat channel. We come up with new informative videos every day. So in case you are interested to attend live sessions like this and get notified on it, please subscribe to the channel and also like this video in case you learn something new. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with the agenda, guys, with the first slide. So guys, first we're going to go ahead and understand why you should actually go ahead and make use of a service called IAM. After that, we're going to understand how does IAM really work, and then move on to discuss what are IAM users. Once we're done with that, we'll move on and talk about how you can authenticate IAM users using multi-factor authentication, wherein you will be basically getting a passcode which changes every 30 seconds, right? So we're going to see how we can enable that kind of a security on IAM users. And finally, we are also going to look at what IAM roles are and how you can basically use them. So guys, this is the agenda for this session. I hope it's clear to you. Let's go ahead and start off with the first topic, which is why do we actually require the IAM service? So guys, the IAM service basically helps us to give granular permissions to people who are making use of a particular AWS account. So what happens is when a company basically is making use of AWS, they have one account, and everybody in their company who wants to use AWS, they create multiple users in that same account with specific permissions so that they can make use of AWS. Now, why is this required? This is required because obviously you cannot give administrator access to everyone, right? So somewhere in the testing team, if they just need to access the database, they will just get access to the database service, right? Somebody from the content team, if they require only access to storage, they will only get access to storage and nothing else. So all these are permissions, all these are granular permissions that you can set up in IAM and you can allot to users. But it is not only limited to that. What you can also do with IAM is give machines permissions to basically do stuff, right? For example, AWS is all about deploying servers, right? So you can give permissions, specific permissions to servers with respect to how they can make use of other services on AWS, right? And in today's session, we are basically going to explore the same thing. Okay, so how does IAM or how does AWS IAM basically work? So like I said, IAM basically can do two things for you. It can grant permissions to either users or it can grant permissions to machines, right? So we are going to have a look at an aspect of understanding both the things, that how you can grant access to particular users, right? And how you can grant access to servers in AWS. So let's go ahead and get started with the first thing, which is IAM users. All right, guys. So this is going to be a very hands-on, extensive session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strictly go ahead and jump onto my AWS Management Console, guys. This is how it looks like, right? And what we are interested today in is the IAM service. So what I'll do is I'll search for IAM, go inside it, and this is how your IAM dashboard is basically going to look like. So it's going to load up in a minute. Give it a second. Yes, so this is how your IAM role or IAM dashboard basically looks like. Now, I already have some users that I've added because this is also a corporate account that we are using, right? So there are multiple people who are added into it, but let me show you. If I want to add a new user, right now I'm basically logged in through my account, right? So I want to give this company's account to, let's say, a new joinee. So how can I go ahead and do that, right? So first of all, what I'll do is on the dashboard, I'll click on users. And then what I can do is I can click on add user. Okay, so let's say the new joinee who has joined is an intern. So we'll just type in intern. Okay, and this intern basically wants to go ahead and access the management console. So we are going to give him the management console access. Now this intern is also developing applications, and hence he's going to use his applications to connect with AWS services as well, right? So he is going to need programmatic access as well. What exactly is programmatic access? I'll give you a hint in a little while, but let's say these are the two permissions that we have to give. He wants to access the console. This is the console that we are accessing, and at the same time he also wants that the application that he is developing should also be able to interact with AWS. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this user. You can also set a custom password for this guy, right, if you want, or you can have AWS create a password, auto generate a password and give to you. Okay, so here you also have one more setting where it says user must create a new password. So whatever auto generated password you're giving to the user, when he is going to log in, he will be asked to create a new password. If you uncheck this option, he will not be asked to create a new password. Okay, so we're going to leave everything at default, click on next. And now this is the most important part, where basically it's asking what what permissions do you want to give to the user. Okay, so what I want to do is I basically want to go ahead and give him some permissions. So what permissions do I want to give him? So do I want him to be a part of any group? Not really. So what I'll do is I'll basically just create the user for now, and I've not given him any permission as of yet. Okay, we have created this user, and we have got, for programmatic access, you get these two things. You get the access key ID and you get the secret access key. So let me copy this very quickly. This is my access key. This is my secret access key. And this is going to be my password. And at the same time, I have this link that I will be going on in order to log in, right? And this is the username. So these are all the things for my user. I can close this now. And now what I can do is I can just go inside this user, and now we can go ahead and give him permission. So I click on add permissions, and here you can find a list of existing policies which AWS gives you by default. Okay, so here are all the different kind of policies or rules over which the permissions to this user can be given. Right now there are no permissions to this user. If he logs in, he will not be able to see anything, right? So for now, let's not give him any more permissions. Let me show you how this guy can log in. So he will first have to go to this link, right? So we can go to this link, and here it will basically ask the username and the password. So it will load up in a bit. Okay, it's asking us the username. So username is intern, and the password is what we got from the dashboard. Sign in. And now when we sign in, it will basically ask us to change the password. So let's change it. So this is my old password. This is my new password. Okay, remember guys, I have not given this user any kind of permissions. So now when I log in, I will be able to see the dashboard. But let me show you what happens when I try to access any service that I want to use in AWS. Okay, so this is a new user. This is the name intern. This is a user that we have got created. And now let's say I want to go ahead and make use of the S3 service. So if I go inside S3, you can see that I will not be able to see anything. See, it says access denied, right? Similarly, any other service also, if I go to, let's say if I go to EC2, See, it says API error, which basically means access denied. Okay. Now let's give some permissions to this user. Let's say he's a content guy and he's frequently going to use the storage service, which is S3. Okay. So let's try to give him the S3 permissions. So I'll just give him S3 full access. This is the permission for that. We'll review, click on add permissions. And now if I go ahead and I refresh this page, notice something. Immediately, this guy is now able to see all the S3 buckets, right? And he can create a bucket, he can do anything now over here. But if he still goes to EC2, he will not be able to access it. Why? Because we just gave him S3 access. We did not give him EC2 access, right? So in EC2, he's still getting permission errors, but in S3, he can go ahead and use the service just like that, which is great. Okay, so this is how you create a user. Now we have created a user, we gave him some permissions, but when you're working for an organization, it can become a little difficult when you are basically giving permissions to a large number of people, right? So for that, AWS has also thought about it, and they have given us a feature called groups, right? Now in groups, what happens is you can create a new group. Let's say I create a group name called Hello World. And to this Hello World group, let's say this is, or let's say, let's give a team's name. Let's say this is the HR team. And the HR team basically will have access to EC2. Okay, let's say these HR teams should have access to EC2. So we'll create a group. And the HR team has now been created, right? And now let's say this intern who came in, his internship is complete, and he is now going to join the HR team, right? Now for this intern, he's not only going to work on S3, but he's also going to work with HR team. So hence he needs access to EC2 as well. So now for this intern, all I have to do is I'll just select this intern. I'll add him to the HR group. Okay. Mind you guys, I'm not giving him any permissions. I'm just adding him to the group. Right. And the moment I add him, right, now let's see what happens. So if I go to EC2 now for the intern account, I will no longer get all the errors that I was getting. Why? Because this guy is now part of the intern group, or sorry, the HR group, and anybody who's part of the HR group is going to get all the permissions on which that group has been defined on, right? So this guy not only has access to S3, but he has also access to EC2. Okay. Now, one important thing that you have to remember over here is that any other person that I'm going to add to the HR group, he will only have access to EC2. He will not have access to S3. The only reason this guy has access to S3 is because I have specifically told in the permissions that he should have S3 full access, right? If I remove this permission from his, and this is how you remove the permission. You just click on permissions, click on the cross, right? And now the permissions have been removed. So now if I go to S3, you will get access denied. And you will only have access to EC2 now. You can see S3 is getting access denied. And again, if you want to remove someone from the group, all you have to do is go to the group. Let's say this is the user which we have added. Remove user from group. He's been removed. And now if he goes back to EC2, this account is back to nothing. This account again has no permissions. All right. So guys, this is how you can basically create a user, add permissions to that user, add him to basically a group, add permissions to a group, and remove someone from that group. This is how you can work with the user. So this user can, now I've told you everything which this user can do on the management console. Now this guy can also work with his programs, right? So whatever permissions are given to this user, his software also has the same permissions. For example, let me open the terminal. So let's make use of the AWS SDK. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this is the AWS CLI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the CLI to make use of this particular user. So here I will require the access key ID, which is this, and the secret access key, which is this. So this is a programmatic way of accessing AWS. But like I said, the permissions is always going to be the same. Okay. Now let's say I want to go ahead and list all the buckets which are there in my S3 server. So if I do in AWS S3 LS, it should list all the buckets. But right now, this intern user does not have any permission. So it says access denied, right? But what if I go ahead and give this user permissions, right? So what I'll do is I'll go to users, I'll go to intern, I'll click on add permissions, attach existing policies, and now let me give him S3 full access. So now this guy since has S3 access, if I refresh the command, you can see I will be able to see all the buckets that are there in S3. Why? Because now this user has the permission. So my intent over here to show you is that whatever you do at a central place in your IAM service is going to have an impact on his software, where he's using this access keys and the secret access keys, and also his user through which he's logged in into the management console account, right? So IAM is a very powerful service, guys, right? So it can help you to remove or add permissions, granular permissions to users within instant. Now, whenever you're setting up an AWS account for someone, you can also give him username and password, and you can also do one more thing for him, which is basically you can go ahead and you can enable multi-factor authentication on this guy. Okay, so what is multi-factor authentication? Basically, it's a two-layer security wherein he will not only have to enter the password, but he will also have to authenticate himself using an application, right? So sometimes you will see that companies give you a hardware device which is called a Gemalto, which has a password which changes every 30 seconds. So you have to enter that password in order to log into your account, right? So that is what multi-factor authentication is. So you can configure multi-factor authentication using many ways. So in AWS, what you have to do is go to that user, go to security credentials, and then go to assign MFA device, right? So over here, since we do not have a hardware, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a virtual MFA device. Let's click on continue, right? And over here, you can download any MFA device of your choice. So any virtual MFA app can help you. What I'm going to today make use of is there's an app called Google Authenticator app. Okay, so let me show you how that looks like. So one quick second. Let me show you guys my phone. All right, guys. So this is how my phone looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to App Store, and we are basically going to download a service which is called Google Authenticator, right? So just download this service, Google Authenticator, and once you open it, this is how it is going to look like. Now what we need to do is we need to click on Begin Setup, and we need to click on Scan Barcode. Now this is there for both iPhone and Android systems. Right now what we are making use of is for the Android systems. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Scan Barcode, and now the camera app is open. And now what I do is I'll just click on Show QR Code, and now I'm going to scan this QR code. Okay, so the QR code has been scanned, and now I will have to enter the two MFO codes that my app is displaying. So this is how my app has now displaying the codes. Okay, so as you can see, the username, the code automatically has been taken. So let's enter these two codes. So 770971, and now I have to enter one more code which is displayed over here, which is 686610. So let me enter that. So 686610. I click on Assign MFA. So the MFA for the intern account has now been set. Now what does that mean? That basically means that now when the intern guy will log in, he will basically have to log in using multi-factor authentication. So let's try that out. So we'll just sign out. And now let's again sign back in. So when he's signing back in, the first thing that he will have to enter is the username and then the password. So now MFA code has been asked. So this MFA code will be from our app. So this is our app, this is the code. So what happens if we enter an expired code, right? So let's remember this number 595510, right? So what I'm going to do is once it expires, I'm going to enter this code, and let's see if AWS authenticates us when this code gets expired. So this code is expired now, right? Now let me go ahead and enter this code over here. 595510, submit, and you can see authentication information is incorrect. So let's enter this thing again, and this time the code is 937721. I'll have to refresh one, sorry. So it's 447363. So let's enter that. One second. So I think the password is also wrong. So 447363. Okay, so it says the MFA might be out of sync, no problems. So let's enter the code. So 464845, and then this is the code that I can see right now, right? And I'll have to enter one more time. So let's wait. So then now the code is 389494, 389494. And now, as you can see, since I've given the right password, I'm able to sign. So this is multi-factor authentication, guys. So using this, you can go ahead and you can authenticate someone. And if you enter the wrong code, which is a code which is not valid after 30 seconds, you will not be allowed to log in. Okay, so this is what AWS IAM Users is. Now we are going to go ahead and understand multi-factor authentication. I've already told you. Now we're going to go ahead and understand the most important, another important feature of IAM, which is IAM Roles. Okay, so right now what I showed you was that on my local systems terminal, if I want to make use of any programmatic software or AWS, I basically have to do AWS configure, enter the access key and the secret access key, and then I'm able to use it, right? There is one more feature that AWS gives you wherein you do not require a user. Let's say there is a server that you have on AWS and that server you want to give certain access to. So how can you go ahead and do that? So there is something called as IAM roles. So what I'm going to do is, let me just close intern. Yes. So we'll go to roles and we'll click on create role. So here I'm going to create a role for EC2 servers. Click on next. And let's go ahead and give this role access of S3. Again, S3. Okay, so I'm going to give this guy S3 full access. Click on next, review, and give this role name as EC2 demo role. Okay, this is a role that we are creating. Now, how can you make use of this role? Let me go ahead and show you. So first thing is that this role can only be used on AWS servers. It cannot be used on any other machine. Like for example, over here, the access key and the secret access key that I used, I could use it on any machine, be it my machine, your machine, and a machine on AWS as well. I can use it anywhere, right? But when it comes down to roles, roles can only be used on AWS servers. Now I have to create an EC2 server in order to show you the power of roles. So what I'm going to do is, let's create an instance. Let's create a Linux machine. It will be part of the default VPC, and we'll also have default security group. Let's launch instances. Okay, so this machine is now being launched. Let's name it as demo, right? So this machine has this IP address. This is the IP address. Let's copy it. So we're going to make use of this IP address to log in to this server. So let's log into this server. Okay. So it says connection refused. Server is still being launched. Okay. Server is ready. Okay. We're logged in. Okay. Let's type in AWS S3 LS. Okay. It says unable to locate credentials. You can configure credentials by running AWS configure. So if I run AWS configure, it'll ask me access key and secret access key. And that is one way wherein I can give this machine access to a certain user through which he will be able to access the services. But let's say I don't want to use a user. I don't want to give, or I don't want to create a user. I just want to give permission to this server. So how can I do that? I'll go to this server. I'll click on actions. I'll click on instance settings. And then I will, not instance settings, sorry. I will go to security and then I will click on modify IAM role. Okay, then I can choose an IAM role. So what is the role that I created? I basically created EC2 demo role. Let's select that. Click on save. Role has been applied to this instance. Again, come back to this machine. Type in AWS S3 LS. And can you see, without entering the access key and the secret access key, this instance has now got permission to basically make use of the permission that I gave to this server, right? Now, let's say if I again go back to IAM, and I remove this permission, which is basically for S3 usage, right? So I'll just go to EC2 demo user. This is EC2 demo role. In the permissions, let's say I remove this. Okay, so it says the permissions have been removed. All right. If I go back here, again type in the same command, you will see I will get access denied. Why? Because this particular role does not have the required permission to list the S3 buckets. All right, guys. So with this, we come to an end to our session. Guys, this was basically a quick crash course into what IAM is. So for more such videos, please subscribe to the Intellipaat channel. We will be coming up with more such videos every day to educate you guys, right? So if you like this video, please hit the like button. And also, if you want any future updates, also hit that notification icon so that you never miss out on any notifications from us. So have a great day ahead, guys, and goodbye.